Hello there. I'm Scotty. You're not. I review the Goosebumps show. And today's tale is The Haunted Mask. Oh, Carly Beth. Okay, I can't do it like R.L. Stine does in the opening, but yes, okay, so we're gonna do a Goosebump-a-thon. We're talking about the Goosebumps episodes. Not all of them, just the ones I have access to on the DVDs. We have these. You say, oh, that's not a lot. Well, actually, that is quite a bit. So, these are 3 packs, and then most of these have 2 or 3 episodes on each one. Unless they're multiple parters, and it's not really on there. We're talking about The Haunted Mask. Right. Haunted Mask. So, a little bit of history with me. I grew up with the Goosebumps books. I went to the library and I'd read them, and then I would watch the show whenever they were on Fox Kids, and then subsequently on VHS and DVD. I would rent those from the library, and so I really got into it. I remember when I was trying to watch the show, I was trying to rent the show from the library in order of books, not in order of the episodes. So I remember the first time I tried to do this, I rented Welcome to Dead House. So I watched that because that was the first book. However, that was not the first episode of the show. In fact, Welcome to Dead House doesn't even show up till season 2, I think. It doesn't even have an episode till season 2. And I think the reason why they didn't do that, they didn't do the episode by the order of the book, is because they wanted to go by what was most popular. One of the most, if not the most popular books was The Haunted Mask. So of course you're going to do that too. So the version I watched is from the VHS. It's a VHS rip that I watched on YouTube. I don't own this. You could only get it on VHS. There's no DVD. I have the second one, but in order to top the second one, I had to watch the first one. I watched it off YouTube. And it starts with the introduction by R.L. Stine. Before I get into talking about the episode itself, let's talk about the plot. The plot is Carly Beth, she's picked on by these 2 guys in her school, Chuck and Steve, and she's constantly picked on. She's always getting scared, and she's had enough of it, so she goes to this new Halloween mask store to get a scary mask. None of the masks she sees are impressive until she goes to a secret back room where she finds this 5 masks, and she picks one. She decides to use that to scare them, although she's not supposed to, because and she runs off with it, and she discovers though that soon it stuck to her face. She can't get it off. Basically is the plot of the story. So we start off with one of the most awkward introductions. You could tell this is probably the first time that R.L. Stine has been on camera. It is R.L. Stine. In some of the DVD ones, the DVD and VHS episodes, he would introduce the episodes. So he introduced this one. I think he did Night Terror Tower. I think he did Stay Out of the Basement. Now there are 3 episodes. They're both 2-part. They're all 3 2-parters that were never released on DVD. They only got VHS releases, and those are The Haunted Mask, Stay Out of the Basement, and The Werewolf of Fear Swamp. Those ones never got a DVD release as far as I remember. Maybe The Werewolf of Fear Swamp did. Maybe I'm thinking of Werewolf Skin. The Werewolf Skin did. But anyway, the whole bunch. Not even all of the episodes from the show were released on DVD. Remember there was an early DVD release that had Bride of the Living Dummy and an old story on it? Maybe that was a VHS even. That had that on there. I cannot find an old story on a DVD. So maybe that was just a VHS they did. But they re-released Night of the Living Dummy 2. Which I remember came by itself. But then it got Bride of the Living Dummy added to it. I swear Night Living Dummy 2 came by itself. I mean, it's only a half hour, so maybe it didn't. But Night Living Dummy 3, however, which I think is the better of the 3 stories that they did, that one got its own release and had Hayden Christensen in the episode. But anyway, this episode, so R.L. Stine introduces us very awkwardly to the episode. He explains what's going to happen, and we go into the episode. Like I said, clearly this is the first time he's ever been on camera, because he is, it's more awkward than I thought it was. It's more awkward than I remember it being. It is just so, he's like, hello, I'm R.L. Stine. I write the Goosebumps books. Today's tale is The Haunted Mask. And then he goes into a little spiel about the episode, and it goes in. And then, just so I don't have to come back to it, at the end of the episode, he comes back and he goes, well, what do you think? Was that scary? Let's ask my parents. Mom, Dad, what do you think? And it cuts to these 2 older people just frozen going, I think they liked it, or something like that. But yeah, like I said, it starts with Carly Beth and her friend Sabrina. They are going to get pumpkins for Halloween, which is a couple days away, so you're kind of late on a pumpkin. You want to get a pumpkin like a week before Halloween. This is like a couple days away from Halloween, but they're already getting pumpkin. They're not late. They're late. She never does get the pumpkin. She gets there. She gets there to get the pumpkin. One thing to notice in watching these, especially with any TV episode that was meant to have commercial breaks, back in the 90s, mostly, of course, it's very obvious when they would go to commercial break. There's always a stinger. Goosebumps had a stinger at the beginning. You'd get the theme song, which is not present here because it just goes straight to the introduction by R.L. Stine and then into the episode. But you get the opening theme song, and then you get a little bit of the episode. There's a scare stinger, commercial, and then come back to thanks. So here, Pumpkin jumps up, an arm grabs her, and stinger, right? And then we come back and we continue the episode. So it turns out to be Chuck and Steve scaring her. And let's talk about the actors here, okay? So the actress that plays Carly Beth, she's fine. Here, she's fine. I think she gets better in the second one. Even by the end of the episode, like, during the scene later, where she's told by the shopkeeper what is going on, she freaks out. She wants to have her face back. She's flipping out. She's great. She's covered by a mask, so you see no emotion, but you can hear it in her voice. And the only downside is that you can't see the emotion in her face, so, because she's covered by a mask, so, but that's probably the best she is. This is one of those things where you were sitting there and you're listening to the dialogue and you go, wow, this was from Canada, wasn't it? Because she keeps saying sorry. Oh, they're going to be sorry. And you're sorry. You know, they say, oh, I'm sorry. I'm just like, oh, this is... Now, I grew up watching a lot of Canadian TV shows, right? This, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Big on Campus, The Zach Files, Degrassi, na. Canadian TV, that was my forte growing up, right? And there's something about this and Are You Afraid of the Dark. Maybe this is a little more campy than Are You Afraid of the Dark, I think. So my son, I showed my son this and Are You Afraid of the Dark. And I think these made him jump more than Are You Afraid of the Dark. Goosebumps had a little more cliffhangery endings to their episodes. So, and this has a little more darker tone, especially The Haunted Mask has a darker tone to it than what would some of the Are You Afraid of the Dark stuff. Which I think it comes from these were produced for syndication, and Nickelodeon clearly had a grip on Are You Afraid of the Dark. These were produced for syndication for Fox Kids. Syndication, technically. So there wasn't really much. Like, I don't think Fox had a big stronghold on this, as that is for kids, you know, most likely. But there is a darker tone. It is campy, but still dark tone, you know. Some of the acting in this, like the actor who plays Steve. Nah, don't like the actor who plays Steve here. I don't know. I can see why they replaced him for the second one, because Steve is the main character of the second one. This actor could not carry that episode at all. He could not do it. There's no way this actor could carry an episode as a lead. But the actor they got to replace him, we'll talk about later, it does work. But here, so you have Carly Beth, the actress who plays Carly Beth. I don't think she's in any other ones, which I think is fine because she's a lead here. Then you have Sabrina. The actress who plays Sabrina would also be in A Night in Terror Tower, which, just a little grabbing that because I don't have that one to review. That's one of my favorite episodes, right? I remember I watched it at a time around the same time as the Chucky incident, where it was on. They played the marathon, and I watched the beginning of Child's Play. He got scared, turned it to wrestling. That's the night Chucky came on, and I watched that earlier in the day. So my grandma was convinced, because she knew I liked Chucky, she was convinced it was the Goosebumps episode that freaked me out. It wasn't that, because I watched it several times afterwards. No, it wasn't that, even though it is a pretty freaky episode. No, it was Chucky, because I was afraid he was going to grab my leg and everything. And another thing about Night in Terror Tower, it got a sequel. A book sequel. But they made it a Give Yourself Goosebumps book, which is you choose your own path, basically. And to me, I always thought of, R.L. Stine had too many ideas for the sequel book. He didn't know which direction to go in, so he says, make it a Give Yourself Goosebumps book. That's the only downside to that, is that I feel like it should be just a regular book. But anyway, back to this, okay? So, the guy who played Chuck, he would come back for the sequel, Haunted Mask 2, but also, I swear he does a voiceover for Larry in My Harry's Adventure. I swear that's not the actor who's in there, that's not his voice. That's Chuck. Alright? He's also in Are You Afraid of the Dark? He's in the Ghastly Grinner episode, which is, there's one. We can put that down. We should put that down to how many actors are also in Are You Afraid of the Dark. This is one. Chuck. Right? Chuck is also in Are You Afraid of the Dark. It's Ethan, aka Cakes. So, yeah. But, so Carly Beth, she gets home, and she's presented this bust made of plaster of Paris by her mother. It looks just like her. That'll be important later. And she's like, wow. And then she is given a present, a duck costume that supposedly she wanted. But she doesn't want to be a duck because she wants to scare Chuck and Steve. You can't scare Chuck with a duck, apparently. But anyway, her brother is dressed as a duck, and he scares her. Well, you think a duck's not scary, he just scared you, but that's you. You're supposed to be scared. There's a scene I always forget that happens. They go to school, Chuck and Steve apologizes to her, but then puts worms on her sandwich. Precursor to Go Eat Worms, maybe? Which is right here. I'll show you the disc. Go Eat Worms, the disc. It's there. But, excuse me. And this convinces her she has to get a mask. So she goes to the mask store, and we meet a shopkeeper. And let me tell you, this actor playing the shopkeeper, he comes back for the sequel, but also, he's good. Coming off, just a little bit off-putting, just a little bit creepy. There's something else with him, as you find out later. She's sneaking around, or she's looking around, she can't find any mask she wants, and then she sees a back room. She sees like 4 or 5 masks line up, and she wants one of them. The shopkeeper says, no, can't do it, but she really wants one to scare Chuck and Steve, and she takes one, and before you point this out, no, I don't count it as stealing, because she technically pays for it. She grabs the mask, and she's like, here. She throws a bunch of money at him and runs off. She has second thoughts, and she turns around, and the shopkeeper locks the door. This is never explained. Because she was ready to give it back. so she can just turn around and give it to him. But she doesn't give it back because he locks the door. And then she's like, it's time to scare them. So she puts the mask on. She goes. She scares her brother. She starts having a weird voice. And there's going to be a discrepancy here between here and the next one. And there's not much to explain it, really. But she puts the mask on once. And she scares her brother. She takes it off. And then she's ready to go. She puts it back on. She has to pretend the duck, she has to pretend she's going to duck. She's going to get changed at Sabrina's wedding. She puts the costume on. She goes. She scares Sabrina. Sabrina's dressed as a cat. We got to note that. She dresses as a cat because that comes up later. And from this point on, she doesn't take the mask off again. So she's only put the mask on twice. She's taken it off once. She's put the mask off. She's put the mask on twice. That changes in the second one. We'll get to that. But she scares some kids. She mouths off to some lady. She's acting all So she finally finds Chuck and Steve, who are in a graveyard of all places. They're dressed as pirates, because of course they are, and they got their pirate treasure, which is the candy. And Chuck scares Steve, but then they really hear a noise, and it's Carly Beth, and she makes them sorry. Freaks out. She buries the plaster pear's head because she has it. She puts it on a stick. She put like a red cloth underneath, make it look like blood. And she freaks out. She buries it, and then she meets up with Sabrina. She said she got rid of the head, and then she can't take the mask off. She's at Sabrina's house, and she can't take the mask off, so she freaks out. She goes back to see the shopkeeper. He's like, I knew you would come back. If you could let her back in the store instead of locking it and saying it's closed. But anyway, he basically tells her the whole story, that these masks were once faces, and it's implied they were all his face, that they were all masks made as faces for him, and that even the face he has is not his own face. And it's starting to turn. Like, he was so afraid of what he looked like underneath that the mask he created started to disform or something like that. But he says, there's no way to stop it because this is your face now. He's like, wait, how many times have you taken the mask off? And she's like, once. And he's like, might be a way. You need a symbol of love to stop it. And of course, as soon as he says this, you know what it's going to be. And she freaks out. She goes, no, 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 no. And the masks chase after her. Oh boy, some of the effects in the episode. First of all, when she is trying to scare Chuck and Steve, she's like, you have to apologize to Carly Beth. And she has like the face. And like, we're sorry, Carly Beth, we're sorry. And the face on the plaster Paris head goes, help me. Oh my god, the effect is so terrible. Oh my god, it's bad. It's bad. It's 90s bad. And even she freaks out. And then later when the masks are flying after her, they do some blurring effect. They just no, he's no good. He's no good. Nope. He's no good. But eventually she goes and she unburies, she says, the plaster Paris head, and she uses it, and it stops the evil. She takes the mask off. She takes it home with her. We do find out in the second one that she buried it. But still, she takes it home with her. And what happens? Her brother puts it on. That's how it ends. Where she's talking to her mom and everything. And then you see the shadows in the background. Something's going on back there. And then you hear, ha, ha, ha. And the brother comes out wearing the mask. And that's how it ends. And that's the hook. Like, oh, look. Her brother wears it. Because Goosebumps, they always have some sort of cliffhanger. It's never outright happy. There's always some sort of cliffhanger ending. There's a lot of them that do that. But, that's how it ends. And, I think it's solid. And for this, I'm actually going to do rating system. It's going to be on the Scare-O-Meter, 1 to 10. And this is going to get a 10 on the Scare-O-Meter for sure. I think it's one of the top tier episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark? But, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Excuse me. Top tier episodes of Goosebumps. What the hell am I doing? Top tier episodes of Goosebumps. I might keep the scare meter for Are You Afraid of the Dark at some point, but when I do the individual episodes. But there's only one multi-parter. Well, there's two multi-parters. Silver Sight, I guess. But, yeah, this is really good. The acting's a little bit off, but for the overall plot, I think it works as a story. But I don't know. It's always been weird because I have the second one on DVD and I've watched that so much. My grandma gave it to me one year for my birthday or Christmas or whatever. And I've watched that one so much. I go back and watch this one. There's so many discrepancies with this. Like in that one, like I said, she says she buried it. And then here it ends with her bringing it to the house. But then in the second one, like, oh, I buried it in the graveyard. Which implies that the hook ending of her brother wearing it didn't happen. Except for, no, there is a line where she's like, oh, you're lucky you only put it on once. Because if you put it on 3 times, then it'd be stuck on you. And I'm like, wait, no, because in this one, she only puts it on twice and it's stuck on her. So, but then you could also say, well, that's because the thing of love. So she was able to get it off. The second, so, and that doesn't make any sense because it was put on 3 times, it's permanent. But here, it's clearly stuck on and you can't get it off. Where in the next one, Steve takes it off 2 times before putting it on a 3rd time and it gets stuck. So, it's a different mask, but that doesn't change anything. And by that logic, I won't say who it is, but the haunted mask attacks someone and attaches it to this guy. And it's only the first time that this person is wearing it. But it's stuck permanently. He's taken over this guy. I don't know. But we'll get to that one when we get to it. Like I said, this is a solid 10 on the scare meter. But, yes, so, what are your thoughts on The Haunted Mask? Let me know in the comments. Let me sure, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. And, yeah, like I said, this is a 10 out of 10. Which I can't say about the next one. Oh boy. But thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.